to work. No scary stories, Grandpa. Greta doesn't need any nightmares about aliens.
Come now, Liebchen. Fairy tales are meant to teach Greta, not to repeat the mistakes of our history. This is nothing more than a story of dragons and kingdoms. The King of Chaos and the Empire of the Dragon. The King of Chaos sat upon his golden throne, basking in the adoration of his people. He had won his great victory, reclaimed his kingdom, and silenced those who doubted him. His court was filled with sycophants, all chanting his praises, all feeding his insatiable hunger for validation. But it was not enough. It was never enough. Men of wealth and whispering tongues stood at his side. Their words were honey-laced, their intentions veiled beneath layers of flattery. Your people adore you, my king. Your enemies tremble before your might. Only a fool would question your divine right to rule. And the king believed them. With their careful manipulation, the king moved swiftly, riding the momentum of his own self-destruction. His pride demanded it. He punished those who had once defied him, severed alliances that had long kept his kingdom strong, and raised the cost of trade so high that soon no kingdom would deal with him. Let them starve, the swindlers advised. Let them suffer, so they may learn who they owe their loyalty to. And the king, lost in the mirage of his own grandeur, agreed. Beyond the great sea, across lands he had once called allies, the Empire of the Dragon watched and waited. Unlike the Kingdom of Chaos, it was not ruled by a single man's ego, nor lulled into complacency by empty words. It was a place of patience and calculation, where history was not forgotten and revenge was written in stone. The swindlers, ever opportunistic, played both sides. While they whispered into the king's ear, they used his stores of gold to fund their true masterpiece, a device of unimaginable power, a machine capable of breaking the very walls between dimensions. It was this invention, more than anything else, that the Empire of the Dragon coveted. Vengeance was merely the cherry on top. As the Kingdom of Chaos spiraled into ruin, its people hungry, its cities dark, its economy shattered, the king remained blind to it all. He had no time for their suffering, no patience for their cries. He surrounded himself with beauty, with spectacle, with whatever kept his mind from straying too far from the illusion he had crafted. They should have listened to me, he muttered to himself. They should have followed my lead. But by then, the swindlers were gone, vanishing into the shadows, their pockets heavy with the spoils of their deception. And that was when the Empire of the Dragon struck. Fire rained down upon the Kingdom of Chaos, swift and merciless. There were no warnings, no alarms. Long ago, the swindlers had convinced the king to remove those who might have sounded the call, dismantling the very protections that once kept his kingdom safe. As the world burned, the king stood atop the balcony of his castle, watching in disbelief. His once golden city was now nothing more than ash and ruin, his people scattered like leaves in the wind. "This cannot be," he whispered. "I am the greatest king who ever lived." But in the end, his words held no power, his wealth had no value, and his people, those who once cheered for him, were nowhere to be found. High above, the dragon descended, landing atop the statue that had once been gifted to the Kingdom of Chaos in another age, in another war. The statue had stood as a symbol of unity, of freedom, of triumph over evil. Now it stood as a monument to arrogance and folly, and with a single breath, the dragon rekindled its torch. The kingdom of chaos was no more.
Wait a second. Grandpa, you said the people love their king.
Yeah, they do. Most of all, they love their kingdom. The king did love his flashy things, but the people knew that. They had known the king his whole life. Besides, no little dragon that breathes fire and just barely had learned to fly could hold a candle to the kingdom of chaos. The king had known he was being swindled from the beginning. To be king and bear the weight of the hefty crown, well, sometimes you have to work with people you may have never wanted to work with. The people had not abandoned their king. They were busy working. Besides, the magic harp would deal with the dragon. Off to bed now, Greta. Tomorrow night, I will tell you how the king slays the empire of the dragon. Yeah, no aliens. I will tell you about them next night, yeah?
Eleven.
11,
11,
11. 11.
11, 11,
11.
11.
11.